Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Nishmasi mimerasi Rus Bas Mordechai. Rabbi Isai Mordik. It's Chullin on steroids. Omar Rava. Okay, so there are two halachas that are new to us when it comes to paraduma. One we learned, one we didn't know about. Here's halacha number 2. Halacha number 1 is that as you are shechting the paraduma, you cannot do any other melacha. You can't do anything else besides shechting the paraduma. You can't cut another watermelon at the same time. You can't be oisik with anything. You can't text message anyone. You got to be concentrated on that one task. The other halacha is v'shachat oisa, that you can only shecht one paraduma at the same time. You cannot shecht anything else with it. You can't shecht 2 paradumas. You can't shecht a paraduma and another animal. Therefore, Amar Rava, shachat para, if he's shechting a paraduma, v'shachat behema acheres ima, and at the same time he's trying to save time. By him trying to save time, he lost $3 million. V'shachat behema acheres ima, l'divrei hakol psula. Everybody will agree that the para aduma is possible because it says v'shachat oisa. Oisa means only it and nothing else. What about the other animal? The other animal is kosher. There's no reason why the other animal should be kosher. Shouldn't be kosher. It's kosher. Top of Lamed Beis, Amud Aleph, Leiv. Nishchato behema acheres imo. Now you have to put in with a pencil. If you shechted another animal without intent of the other animal, let's do this bal peh. It's very gishmak. If you had no intent, you didn't want to shecht another animal. Is it a good shechita or not a good shechita? That was the sugi yesterday. According to Reb Nosson, it's a good shechita. And according to Chachamim, it's not a good shechita. And we're passing like Reb Nosson is a good shechita. According to Reb Nosson, that it's a good shechita, and you shechted a paraduma with it, but by mistake you shechted another black and white cow, it's a good shechita, the black and white cow. So what happens to the paraduma? Puzzle, because you're not allowed to shecht 2 things at the same time. But according to Chachamim, that the black and white cow is not a good shechita, because you didn't know about it, so you didn't shecht another one with the paraduma. You only shechted the paraduma by itself. The nice sliced into the other animal. Oh, and what about the fact that you're not allowed to slice a watermelon? And by you slicing into the black and white cow is like slicing a watermelon. The answer is that if you slice into a watermelon without knowing it, it's not a problem, because you weren't oisik with it. The problem is when you take off your concentration from the paraduma and start concentrating on a black and white animal or in a watermelon. But over here you didn't know it was there. So it's not a problem at all. Either way, it's not a problem. So says the Gemara inside, Li Reb Nosson, according to Reb Nosson, that says that you could shecht another animal by mistake and it's a good shechita. So in Mela, it turns out that you just shechted 2 cows at the same time. Reb Nosson para psula. And therefore, the paraduma becomes possible because you're not allowed to shecht 2 animals at the same time, because it says v'shachat they saw only one. But what about the black and white cow? The $3 million cow is completely possible, throw it out. But the $2,000, whatever it costs, $2,000 cow is completely kosher, because even though you didn't know you're shechting it, it's okay to shecht something without knowing. The Rabban say that you have to have kavana when you shecht. Parak sheira. The paraduma is kosher. Why? Because you didn't shecht anything with it. Why didn't you shecht anything with it? Because behema psula, the black and white is puzzle. So the black and white is puzzle, and the red is kosher because you only shechted. You had kavanah for the red. So it's the opposite halacha. According to Reb Nosson, the black and white kosher, the red puzzle. Says the Gemara Shita. This whole idea that if you work with the paraduma, you don't work with the. This is all stuff that we learned. Says the Gemara Nishchata behema acheres le Reb Nosson etzrichle. No, I want to tell you a chiddush. In the second black and white cow, I would think that the words v'shachat saw means you could only shecht the paraduma and not a second one. But what does it mean, not a second one? I would think that you can't shecht 2 red cows together. But when it comes to a black and white cow together with a red cow, it shouldn't affect the red cow. The red cow should be kosher. Kamash malon, that no matter what, it doesn't matter what kind of cow, you cannot shech two at the same time. That's the pshad in Meshachat Isa. Chodach dlasima, this case right over here. As you're shechting the paraduma, you cut a watermelon, you cut a gourd. Dirakol psula. You're not allowed to multitask. Nechtechot lasima. If it just happened to be cut as you were cutting the thing, you didn't have any intent, that doesn't ruin it. Dirakol ksheres. We're learning what the problem with doing something else is. Doing something is not the actual physical doing. Doing is that it takes away from the mind. A person physically cannot do two things. Don't listen to your wives or whatever. You can only focus on one thing at once. That's it. That's all a human being can do, for most human beings. Nafla saken v'gbia. Rabbi say it happens all the time. A person is shechting. The knife falls out of his hand. Can he continue shechting? What is that called? Shehiyah. What's shehiyah? How much of a pause is considered a pause to ruin the shechita? So we have different cases. Some of them are deliberate, some of them by mistake. Different things happen to a person. For instance, Naflo saken v'igbiya, his knife fell down. Naflu kela v'igbiya, one of his garments fell. Hishchiz is a saken, another ma'isa, one that his hoizin might have fallen off. So you have to bend down, you have to stop shechting, pick up. Hishchiz is a saken v'off. He was in the middle of sharpening the blade. It takes a lot of strength to sharpen blade. And he got really tired. His friend came and did the shechita for him. So now, how much of a pause is too much? If he stopped and waited the amount of time that it takes to do a full shechita, psula. How much is that? Rabbi say, guess how much that is. A behema gasa, how much is that? Be'erech.
3 seconds.
3 seconds. 10 seconds. So just for the shear for today, now nobody hold me to this at all. Just for shear, we're going to say a bird is 6 seconds, and a large animal is 1.5 minutes. Just to l'saber his knife, so we have a little bit to work with. Reb Shimon Omer, imsha kedei bikur. Bikur means to check the knife. How long does it take to check a knife? I forgot to ask Reb Avram Weisfish. I'm assuming that it's less than the shechita itself. It's going up and down with your nail, and you do it pretty quickly. And we said on the sides. Also, I think if they're good, they can do it in, let's call it 30 seconds, but it's now 1.5 minutes. How much is shechita? Omarav kedei shchitas behema acheres. In order to shecht another animal from beginning to end. So we'll call it 1.5 minutes. Omar le Rav Kahana v'Ravasi l'Rav. So Rav Kahana and Ravasi told Rav, kedei shchitas behema lebehema v'oif life. While you're shechting animals, I understand it's 1.5 minutes that you get to pause and take a nap. But when you're doing birds, but if it only takes 6 seconds per bird, so maybe you only get 6 seconds. Maybe when you're doing birds, you still get 1.5 minutes. Because there's a shear. There's a shear. It's a Xeris HaKosov. It's a shear. It's a Halakha Meshmesina. You get a Shehiyah is 1.5 minutes. How do you know how much it's the time it takes to shech a behema g'dayla? But even when you're doing birds, you have that 1.5 minutes. Amar lo. So Rav says it's unbelievable lashon here. Lo yahava b'dichno bei b'chavive de'ishayle. I wasn't in a good mood with my uncle. We weren't in good terms. My uncle, me, Rav, and my uncle Reb Chia.
The uncle wasn't.
Okay, the uncle wasn't. Yeah. One of us wasn't in the proper. We weren't in good terms then. He wasn't. In other words, I couldn't ask him the question because of one of our moods. Akoparim, just to remind the Olam, because it's fascinating. Reb Chia had a sister from his mother's side, and he had a brother from his father's side. The sister and the brother were not related. They were both related to him. It was Reb Chia's brother and Reb Chia's sister. That brother and sister got married. That kid would not be accepted to any yeshiva today but he turned out to be Rav. So that's my uncle, my beloved, my uncle, Reb Chia. I couldn't ask him. I don't know. I never asked him. So, and then the Gemara says a fascinating thing. Itmar, Omer Rav, Kidei Shchitas Behema LeBehema V'oif Loif. So he was makbid. He was machmir. He didn't get the answer from his uncle. So he said, I don't know if that's the reason, but he said, no, when you shecht chicken, you don't get the minute and a half. You only get 6 seconds. Ushmuel Amar, Afilu Behema Loif. No, even when you shecht chickens, you get 1.5 minutes. V'chenki also Rav and Omer Rabbi Yochanan Afilu Behema Loif. And Rabbi Yochanan also holds, you get 1.5 minutes throughout whatever you shecht. Rabbi Chanina Amar Kadesh Yovi Behema Acheres V'yishchoit. Rabbi Chanina sticks in something, no, you get much more than 1.5 minutes. As long as it takes you to get another animal from somewhere else. Ask the Gemara, it makes no sense. Yovi Afilu Ma'almo. Sometimes you have to go all the way to Brazil, I don't know where, exactly. You have to go to Yerushalayim to get an animal. Says the Gemara, on the side of the Dvarach L'Shiurim, that means that it depends where the animal is. Sometimes it's an hour away, sometimes 10 minutes away, sometimes 4 days away. No. It doesn't mean to get another animal. It means to get the other animal down on the ground. So, over here you see Rebbe Avram Weisfish knocking down a 1,000-pound animal, a wild beast, in seconds. Yeah, not a problem for him. But we're talking about a regular human being. L'chayra it takes, for a cow, it takes a good few minutes. I'm going to assume until you tie its legs down, until you trip it up, it takes a nice amount of time. So Rabbi Yochanan says no, the shear is 1.5 minutes as long as it takes you to shecht. Rabbi Chanina says no, as long as it takes you to knock an animal down, 5 minutes plus 1.5 minutes. So you get a total of 6.5 minutes. If you take a nap in between, you start shechting, you take a nap, you go, you start, whatever you do, you sharpen your knife, you have 6.5 minutes, he says. You got to lift the animal up, knock it down to the ground, v'yishchoit, and to shecht. Daka l'daka, v'gasa l'gasa. So it takes a little bit here. Where was it? Something like this. I don't know if there's... It looks like Meyer. Omar Rava. Hashoiche b'sakin ra. Guy uses a really bad blade. It cuts, but it takes some time to cut. Afilu kol hayoim kuloi ksheira. Even if a person shechs all day long, as long as he's cutting, he's making progress, kosher. Boy Rava. Shihio ismao shid starfu. Unbelievable. Let's say you get 1.5 minutes to pause. So what if he paused for a half a minute at 9 o'clock, a half a minute at 10 o'clock, and another half a minute at 11 o'clock? He's going all day long. So he wants to take a little break. He's tired. His arm is falling off. So he pauses. But he knows that you're not allowed to pause for 1.5 minutes. But if you set a timer, does it accumulate? Does the shias accumulate? Didn't you just say that a guy is shechting all day long with a bad knife? Obviously, he's going to take a pause there. How do you go 24 hours straight without taking a pause? So you see, pauses do not accumulate. Otherwise, how did he do it? Says Gemara, what do you mean? I'm talking about he shechted all day long, non-stop. But if he stopped, maybe it's bad. So this is unbelievable. We had a very similar question 2 days ago. A guy takes a knife and he shechs. Where's my new pipe? I have a gewaldika behema gasa trachea. He shechs. Let's say, that amount. He shecht the roiv. It's perfect. Is it a good shchita? It's a good shchita. He shecht the roiv. Now he waits 2 minutes. He waits 2 minutes. 2 full minutes, which is more than 1.5 minutes that you're allowed. And then he puts the knife in the same exact thing, and he goes weiter. And he shechs more. Problem or not a problem? So l'chayra, what's the problem? What? He shechted already. But whoever was paying attention 2 days ago, we had the same exact question by Chalada. What happened by Chalal? The Gemara asked the same question. He did Roiv, it was a perfect shchita. And then he sticks the knife in, he buries it, and then he goes weiter. So what's the question? What was the Gemara's question? He already did a whole shchita. So Rashi explains, because it's one long shchita, and he messed up at the tail end. So over here also, he did a shchita. If he would have stopped and gone home, it would have been perfect. The problem is he continued. Who asked you to continue? You continued and you did a shehiyah in between. It could be it's a problem. Listen to this, and Rashi says here something unbelievable. He sticks in here, Venera, listen to this. A guy, it happened to me, I saw with my own eyes. A guy shechted a cow, and they're on to the next cow. They don't wait, so they release him from the box. The cow stood up and started running around the place, his head gushing, everything. Guys are running out of the way, they're holding on, the legs are in the air, holding on to machines. A guy pulls out a gun, starts shooting. Don't ask, it was a mess. So what do you do in such a situation? I'm not joking. It's sakanas nefashis. A cow out of control, sakanas nefashis. Smash you into a piece of metal over there. People were hanging, dangling, screaming. They have a system. Literally, they're taking out weapons. Boom, boom, boom. Crazy. So, Venera, da shoichet roiv simanim, says Rashi. We're talking about a bird here. He sees Tzar B'Lachayim, the bird is going crazy. The bird is not dying. So he has a Marid Geitza. He's going to take a knife, same knife he's holding in his hand, and continue to give him a shechita, knock his head off. Finish off the job. You're not allowed to go back to that place. The mutav shiyaka al tzavir. Give him a whack in the head, but don't go back to that place. Because you go back to the place, the Gemara says teiku. The Gemara says, I don't know what the halacha is. A fascinating halacha. Huh? You did a complete shechita. And everybody says, hey, it's 100% good. It's kosher v'yasher. You can eat the bird right now. No, but if you continue, you make it worse. So you have a bird that's out of control. Make sure you don't cut it in the neck. Reb Shimon says that Reb Shimon argues, he says it's not Kedei Shchita, it's Kedei Bikor, it's checking the knife. My Kedei Bikor, how much is that? Omer Reb Yochanan, Kedei Bikur Shel Chacham. You got to go all the way to the Chacham in the city. In fact, the Gemara Nasat Dvarach L'Shiurim, every Chacham lives in a different place. Sometimes you have to travel 2 hours to get to the Chacham. So is it a 2-hour thing? It's 1 minute, 10 seconds. What is it? El Kedei Bikur Tav Chacham. It's if he himself, the Shaykh himself knows the halachas. So how long does it take him to shecht and then go with his finger like this? Whatever that is, 30 seconds, you get 30 seconds. Says the Mishnah. So let's do this Baal Peh for a second. You come to an animal and you see that his trachea, this is the breathing pipe, is completely disconnected. And then you go ahead and you shecht this pipe, one pipe. What do you just do? Is the animal kosher to eat? Absolutely not. You didn't shecht this pipe. This pipe was already disconnected. The big question of the Mishnah is, how do we view the animal? Did the shechita help at all? Because a lot of times shechita helps to remove tumah. If it has a hole in the heart and you shechted it, then it's great. It's a good shechita. You can't eat the animal, but there's no tumah. What if it doesn't have a hole in the heart? It has a removed trachea. It's popped out of its place, and you shecht one siman. Did you remove the tumah? No. What do you guys say? You say no. You say no. Anybody say yes? Rebbe Akiva says yes for a second. Then he takes it back. Shachad esaveshet. We're moving on to different halachas now. It's called ikur, to pop out a siman. He shechted the esophagus, the eating tube. Then he messed up on the trachea, on the breathing tube. He as he's shechting it, he popped it out. He did something wrong with the knife, so he only shechted really one out of the 2 simanim. Or he started out really bad. Here. Oh, this is nishma. This is not good for us. I wanted to show where he popped it out himself. Okay, it's one of the halachas. This next one maybe. Bekitzer, he didn't have a trachea to deal with. He only has the esophagus. He shechted the esophagus. Or you only shechted one out of the two. Or he only shechted one out of the two. Obviously, you shecht one out of the two. It's nothing. It's not a good shechita. But the question here is not whether it's a good shechita. The question is it a nevela or a treifa? A nevela has tumas mago mas. If you touch it, you become tummy. You carry it, you become tummy. You did chalada. What's chalada? You hid the knife. Let's see. You see over here, the knife is hidden. It's underneath it's underneath both simanim. It's hidden. And then he goes, after it's hidden, he goes and he goes in an upward motion. It's the wrong motion. Instead of coming down from the trachea downwards, he goes from the esophagus upwards. Upsakoi. Rabbi Sheva v'omer nevela. Rabbi Sheva says this is not a valid shechita. If it's not a valid shechita, the animal is a real nevela. It's like a dead horse, a dead cat, a dead cow. It gives tumah. Rabbi Kiva v'omer treifa. No. At the end of the day, he performed shechita here, and therefore removes shechita. So Rabbi Sheva says a rule. Klal Rabbi Sheva, Mishum Rabbi Shua. Kol shenifsel b'shechita is a nevela. As you're performing the shechita, you create a nevela. You create. If you did a psul as you perform a shechita, then the animal is a nevela. So over here, you performed a shechita and you realized you messed up on the trachea. You ripped the trachea out of its place before the esophagus. After the esophagus, only the trachea. It was during shechita, so it turns into a nevela. Let's say I had a hole in the heart, but you did a great shechita. The garden lipazel treifa. If that's this, the other thing caused the hole in the heart caused it to be possible, but it was a good shechita, then it's a treifa and there's no tuma. Says the Mishnah of Ahoida loy Rebbe Kiva. Rebbe Kiva admitted to Rebbe Sheva that you're right. You are right. In other words, if I mess up during shechita, there's no machlokes anymore. Everybody agrees it's an avela and there's tuma. Says the Gemara, Shochat desaveshet v'hoida loy Rebbe Kiva v'rimini. We have to remember these three words over here, these two words. Eilu treifos. That's the next perek. V'rimini. What do we say? Rabbi say, if you find a damaged trachea and you shecht, you made a nevela according to everybody. Rabbi Kiva admits, Rabbi Sheva for sure said it. Eilu treifos. There are 16 types of treifos, the Mishnah says, and the first two talk about a hole in the esophagus and a messed up trachea. And it calls it treifos, not a nevela. We just said it's a nevela. So we have a contradiction that we're going to be dealing with until the end of the shir today. A contradiction. On the one hand, our Mishnah calls it a nevela. On the other hand, it's elu treifos. It's a treifa. Nikov is avesh, the psukas gargeres. If the gargeres, the kana, the trachea, the breathing pipe is dislocated, it's a treifa. So that's the question. The answer, we're going to have a few different answers here. Amarava, loikashya. Kan, our Mishnah, sheshachat l'b'seif pasak. He did a nice shechita on the esophagus. And then he dislocated the kana, the trachea. Kan shepasak, the Gemara is going to explain. Kan shepasak, first he disconnected the kana, the breathing pipe. L'b'seif shachat, and then he shechted the eating tube, the esophagus. That what? Shachat u'l'b'seif pasak. If he started out nicely, he did a nice shechita on the esophagus, and then he disconnected the trachea, nifsels b'shchiti. So that's a nevela according to everybody. Why? Because the psul happened while he's shechting. While you're shechting, then according to everybody, it's a nevela. It gives tumah. But pasak, that's what Noam was saying. Pasak u'l'b'seif shachat, if it was disconnected first, and then he shechted, kidovar acher gorem l'lepasel damya. We view it as if this animal had a problem. Sometimes it has a problem with the heart. Sometimes it has a problem with the trachea. It has nothing to do with the shechita. And then you went and you shechted the esophagus, then it's a treifa. The problem is, it can't be. Why? Because our Mishnah says differently. It says, if you shechted the esophagus, the feeding pipe, and then he dislocated the trachea. But then what does it say? He first, you're trying to say that this case, if the trachea was, was dislocated first, then it's called a treifa. But it says in our Mishnah, pasuk is a gargeres. The trachea was dislocated first. Nevela. It's a nevela, not a treifa. It says mefurish that if the gargeres was dislocated first, you dislocated the gargeres, and then you shechted the esophagus. It's a nevela, not a treifa. Don't tell me that's the case of a treifa when it says mefurish it's a nevela. Maybe he's talking about that he already shechted the esophagus. The problem is then it would be exactly the same case, and that's what the Gemara asks. Well, you'll say that in our Mishnah, one was together simultaneously, and one was one after the other. It's a nice doichak, but it doesn't really work. Why? Then you're saying the same case twice. It says mefurish that after the esophagus came after the kana, after the trachea came the esophagus. It didn't happen in the reverse. It happened first kana, then esophagus. So Rav himself has another pshat that the next Mishnah, the next parak, Elu Treifos, you have to understand it as not Elu Treifos. It's not 16 only Treifos. What it really means is Elu Asuros. These are the ones that are asur to eat. Some of them are treif, some of them are nevela. Don't be medayik in the word treif. El Asur is done. Yes, we have nevela. Yes, treifos. Out of the 16, some of them are in fact nevela. For instance, that if you damage the trachea first and then the esophagus, then it's a nevela. It's not a treifa.
18.
The problem is that if you 18, okay, 18, but check them out. I don't know. I thought it was 16. So the problem is that you're opening up a can of worms, so to speak. Now you're introducing that the next Mishnah, that parak also talks about nevelas. So guess what? I have a bunch of other nevelas that's not mentioned in the Mishnah. I saw a gistra nevela, this famous gistra, the cow that walks onto a bus, half a cow. Rabbi Isai, here's a beautiful question. Here, where's this picture? This guy, it's missing, take a look, it's missing its entire thigh, and when it sits down, you can see a hole. This cow is mooing away, it's in a lot of pain, I get it, the whole thing. If you touch it, do you become tamei? It's alive, right? Wrong, you become tamei. It's halachically it's dead. Pelip loim. You learn a lot of stuff in Daf Yomi. Kikatani, says the Gemara, Kikatani nevela loim tamei mechayim. The Mishnah of Elu Treifos only talks about animals, normal animals that are nevela after they're dead, not when they're alive. This animal over here, it's winking at you, it's wearing a hat, it's mamish, it could be walking around. If you touch it, you become tamei. Next. Okay, so that's one pshat. Reb Shimon Lakish Omar, I have another pshat. In our Mishnah, it's talking about, take a look. There's already a nice incision right over here. And he goes and he takes a knife, do it lefty, it's very dangerous, takes a knife and continues the incision. Guess what? It's as if you didn't even shecht this pipe. This pipe doesn't even exist because it's already shechted. And then you shechted this guy, the esophagus. Okay, so you shechted one pipe. It's as if you only shechted one pipe. But the next mission is talking about, so that's an avela. Because you only shechted one pipe, it's an avela. But the next Mishnah, when it's a treifa, is talking about this is open over here. So you didn't cut over here, you cut right over here, another place completely. And memela, that's considered a treifa. It's possible during the shechita, you're doing an avela. But if you shecht in another place, it's as if it had another mum somewhere. It has a hole in the heart. Over here, it has a hole in the trachea. Who cares? You're doing a shechita in another place, and you're machshering the tumah. You're getting rid of the tumah because you're doing a full shechita in another place on the trachea. I asked the Gemara a very simple question, and that's it for today. How come Rav Shimon Lakish says something else himself? He says something else. Take a look at this. Just little simple science over here, yeah? For people that don't know. This is the trachea. The trachea leads right into what? Into the lungs. So what if a person takes the trachea and chops it in half? In other words, it's called shchita. Cuts it in half. Then before he gets to the veshet, before he gets to the esophagus, he takes a screwdriver and punctures the lung. He makes a bunch of the shaykhet, the bite that takes the lungs, they blow it up to see if there's any sirchus. He finds 3 screwdriver holes in the lung. Is the animal treif or not treif? The animal is not treif. Why is it not treif? Because he already cut the kana. So when you cut the kana, you could remove it halachically from the animal. Pretend there's no kana in the body. And the fact that you cut a lung that's connected to the kana, it has no significance anymore. If you stabbed it in the heart, then you made it a treifa. But there are no lungs. The lungs are in a box. The lungs are out of the animal already. How? By you cutting the kana, you remove the lungs. He calls it it's not a problem to poke the lung. As if you put it in a basket. When you shechted, when this kana has a giant hole like this, so this kana is already removed from the animal. It's in a basket. So you go and you start cutting over here, down here. Who cares? It's as if you poked a hole in the lung. This is not even in the animal anymore. So you didn't do a shchita. So maybe I don't like the teretz. So I have another very, very simple answer. Again, we have a contradiction in the 2 Mishnayos. In our Mishnah it says that if you uproot the trachea first and then the esophagus, it's an avela. In Elu Treifus, the second case in the Mishnah calls it a treifa. So he says very good. The second Mishnah is before he took it back. Before Rebbe Kiva took it back. We know that in our Mishnah, Rebbe Kiva retracted he also said in our Mishnah it's a treifa. Then he retracted. He said, I have charata. It's an avela. So don't ask me that in one place it says nevela, one place it says treifa. The one place that says nevela is when Rebbe Kiva said in our Mishnah, he took it back and he calls it a nevela. But that place, Elu Treifas, is a Mishnah that was written before Rebbe Kiva retracted. It took him years to retract, and he calls it a treifa. When people learn things about peh, not like in our days, everything's about peh. You give a kid a Mishnah, then another Mishnah. If you take out a Mishnah, it'll confuse him completely. Adult also. You can't take out words from a song. You're not going to be able to continue. How are you going to continue? When everything's about peh, you just leave it as is, and you know that that's a mistake. And the real one is, if trachea first, and then esophagus is called a nevela, not a treifa. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.